Does race matter to God? It absolutely does. And those who tell you that God is race blind or that he doesn't see ethnicity are completely wrong. To be sure, God loves people from every race, and every person on earth has the ability to receive God's gift of salvation. In fact, Revelation 7:9 says that members of every race, tribe, tongue, and nation will be in heaven someday. And yet even this verse reveals that God's ideal is not a racially homogeneous society. He created our racial differences, and he intends to keep them even in heaven. In fact, in the Bible, God punished people who tried to form a monoculture. At the Tower of Babel, when the people wanted to stay together in one society and resist God's call for them to move abroad, he confused their languages, which forced them to separate and eventually gave us the races we see across the earth today. Later on in the Bible, a good chunk of the Old Testament is dedicated to God dividing up land and establishing borders for people. God explicitly told Israel to conquer certain lands, but then he told them to leave alone other lands because he'd given them to a different people for a possession. In multiple places in the Bible, it's made clear that God establishes the borders of people, assigns them the land in which they will live, and gives them their identity. Racial identity, ethnicity, culture, and homeland are all gifts from God to those who have them. And from Genesis to Revelation, the removal of these things by God is considered a punishment. It's described as your land being given to someone else, foreigners ruling over you, your name being blotted out from under heaven, and another people living in your place. So the idea that it's unwise, unbiblical, or a distraction from the gospel to try to avoid these things is unbiblical. In particular, I've had white Christians tell me that they just don't care about the racial makeup of their homeland, which is strange because God seems to care. God made the white race, culture, and ethnicity. He thinks it's beautiful, and he gave us a place to live. We ought to keep it. We don't do this because we think we're superior or we hate other ethnicities. We do it because God made every race and every ethnicity. He thinks they are beautiful, and he gives them the right to self-preservation. It would be foolish and even disrespectful for us to denigrate that. To embrace something that God uses as punishment is downright rebellious. It's to accept a kind of humanistic globalism that tries to pretend every difference God created in the human race is totally ignorable and worthy of being disposed of. It's an attempt of a sort to unite under the flag of a new kind of Babel, a one world order, monocultural, humanistic government that tries at all costs to completely erase the cultures that God wanted for the people on his planet. And the idea that it's proactively virtuous and admirable to be race blind and not care about the homeland that God gave your people is not admirable in the least. It's to commit the sin of Esau and to spurn your birthright. It's to commit the sin of Babel and to try to chase a monoculture that God obviously doesn't want.